Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in with My Hero Academia chapter 266. Just finished writing the script. We're going to be reading off of that as we go through the chapter and we do the analysis. It's going to be a long one. The script is a little bit long. But before that, also want to tell you, I am uploading another Hero Academia video. It's analysis of Hawks and whether or not he has any parallels to the Icarus myth. I see this being thrown around on the internet pretty often. So if you're into it, please check it out. Also, I made a Shonen Jump roundup video for the chapters that came out last week, and I've uploaded it to the channel. So if you were interested in knowing about my opinions for the other manga series from last week, it's there. I couldn't upload it sooner because I actually just forgot. Anyway, let's get into the chapter, and I gotta start off with saying, man, this sucks. Twice is dead. I mean, like, I know I was advocating for, or like Twice might be dead. I know I was advocating for this, but now that it's happening in practice, it's like, who was advocating for this? We can't lose Twice. Twice is the best part of the villains. You just lost the comedic factor. No, we can absolutely not. We cannot lose Twice. This is terrible. Not happy about this. Who advocated for this? This sucks. So suffice to say, I am, this one got me. I feel really bad about this situation. I really don't want Twice to die. Because now, I was advocating for it because, from the tactical perspective, it makes sense. Get rid of Twice. But from the actual, reading the Hero Academia manga, getting rid of Twice is insane. Twice carries the villains. Who is the author going to use now? Compress? We don't know anything about Compress. He could have been great, but no one wanted to give the villains time, so the author could never develop Compress. We're in a pretty bad situation here. The author just lost one of the three villains that he's actually given time to developing in terms of the villain league. What a screwed up time, man. But anyway, still great chapter. Really made me feel stuff. So let's start talking about general topics. The first one I want to go into is that, do I think Twice is dead? And honestly, I think this could be either. Mind you, I'm like a guy that's been burned by Fairy Tail, and Fairy Tail is notorious for doing this kind of maneuver. But, from the perspective of the construction of the chapter, you have a very strong Twice monologue throughout the chapter. It's been very Twice heavy chapters in general. So, very well, this is the construction for a death. This is the send-off for a death. But characters in Hero Academia have survived stuff that they really shouldn't survive before. So, Twice could make it. We just don't know. There might be someone with a quirk that can heal at the bottom. Maybe they can save Twice at the last minute. Maybe Twice is just unconscious. Maybe Twice gets another bruise. There's a lot of ways that the author could cheat this. In regards to cheating this while also maintaining the death, Toga is active. What stops Toga from turning into a Twice and then making a permanent Twice or a Twice double that will then be the new Twice? There's nothing really stopping her from doing that, which brings me to my next point. Is Toga gonna go ham? And when I say go ham, I mean, is Toga gonna turn into Twice and use Twice's quirk and effectively cause the scenario that Hawks was dreading? And this one, it feels weird saying either or because it should be clear that it could happen, but it's questionable since Compress was advocating for Toga escaping instead of Toga turning into Twice. And, just pretty much expediting how much duplicates they make. The big question is, does Toga have Twice's blood? If Toga has Twice's blood, then, okay, we're off to the races. This chapter, especially, shows us that bad assumptions are going to hurt you. And if Hawks made the assumption that Toga can't use someone else's quirk, then this is going to be a pretty bad spot. Hawks hasn't made any mention that he knows that Toga's quirk got upgraded. So this might be a blind spot for Hawks. When we talk about long-term projections here, I do see Toga as being the person that could really screw this up. And maybe Toga is the one that makes this fight reach Izuku's group and all the people outside. We're still in a realm of potential when it comes to how this battle can develop, which is what makes it kind of tough. But right now, Toga does have enough motivation to turn into Twice and go ham. And Toga, if she has Twice's blood, can make a new Twice for us later in the story, even though original Twice died. Also, now I said that there on Viz there was some confusion about Twice. People weren't sure if Twice died, and it's very clear that Twice died. The Twice that goes to Toga is one that's wearing the mask, and the only ones wearing the masks are the duplicate Twice. So it's kind of weird that people weren't able to see that Twice fell off the roof. So we'll go through that, and I'll point you to the exact moment where Twice falls off. It's odd. Anyway, moving on. Another big factor that was in this chapter was Dobby knowing Hawks' real name, and I believe that Hawks' name is something that's kept secret. Not many people know about it. I think it was first revealed in the data books even. And then Hawks makes it clear to the readers that this is not supposed to be something that that Dobby knows. And so, you know, what theories do we have here? Like, okay, Dobby could have access to some kind of secret database. I mean, he works with Dr. Yujiko, or what we call him in Garaki now. Like, Garaki could have a database of everyone who's ever come into the hospital, and Hawks would have gone to the hospital as a kid at some point. It wouldn't be that hard. If we're going like more hardcore conspiracy, which is what the narrative seems to be implying with Hawks asking Dobby, who are you? Maybe it's something like Dobby was in the same kindergarten as Hawks when they were children and they were friends because they both had a love for Endeavor. Maybe Dobby is actually Toya. Ugh. And, you know, they both bonded over having Endeavor plushies. I don't know, man. Like, the author can jigger anything he wants in this particular situation because it's so wide open. Like, actually, this chapter, I'm also going to tell you, I'm going to make a lot of fun of Dobby. Just because the author's trying to make Dobby seem so cool, but it's like, nah, man, Dobby, you're a loser. Like, holy crap, if you are Toya, you're a loser, Dobby. All right, yeah. And you know, no disrespect to anyone that likes Dobby, but like honestly, this whole chapter is epic failure for Dobby. And if you say it's not, you're being very optimistic about the character. Like, he could still ruin Hawks later, but this is definitely a loss for Dobby. Next up, I want to say apologies to the author, man, and mostly because everything that I've wanted, turns out the author was doing it. You know, I advocated for Twice going down, and Hawks did it. Like, yeah, he exercised more judgment than I thought he would, but he did it. And, you know, last chapter I was complaining like, Hawks, you really should be cutting this guy's arms off. Like, if you really want to knock him out. But the author's been doing a really good job of covering his bases. And this is one thing that I want to advocate for when you guys, you know, sometimes Deus Ex Machinas, they gotta happen. Sometimes an author writes themselves into a corner and there's no way out. They gotta ass pull. But I do love it when an author acknowledges, like, hey guys, yeah, I'm aware. Like, this is a kind of like shitty little turnaround that happened, but it has to happen just because that's just where we're at right now. Shokugeki no Soma did this sometimes, and whenever they did it, it's like, okay, cool, you get a pass. It's important that an author recognizes where exactly there's a logical gap in the story. And the author has done a really good job. In the previous chapter, he covered up for why Hawks may not want to knock out Twice. And that was just, he didn't believe that Twice would be easily knocked out. I said, well, you should do some serious damage to the guy's body at the very least. This chapter reveals that's what Hawks did after all. He says, I cut up his muscles, I messed him up, he shouldn't be able to move around too much. So, good enough for me. That's all I need to know. Then that does mean that Hawks was exercising extreme caution, and pretty much I was criticizing he should have been exercising more caution. The author did it. That's great. So props to the author. Absolutely love whenever they cover them up. Even if this is a case where, like, you could say Hawks should have done better. Like, yeah, Hawks should have done better. Like, everyone should have done better though. But once we're at a point where it does show that there was an effort at the very least, you understand, like, this is just how the story has to progress. At the very least, the character's intelligence wasn't compromised just to make the plot move. And for anyone that knows TV tropes, the idiot ball. Hawks wasn't holding on to the idiot ball. He was legitimately trying, and that is worthy of praise. Next up, there was Twice's monologue throughout the chapter, and the monologue is broken up over several pages, so I have it compiled here, so I'll just very quickly read it out, just so we can talk about it. Sure, my whole life it seems like I've been a man falling lower and lower, getting duped. To you, my life looks pathetic, meaningless. I wandered around searching for myself, and I found myself blessed with friends better than I could ever be. Could a guy ask for a better life? Die, Hawks, but you don't get to tell me that I was unlucky. Being here with them, I was happy. So this chapter, I think, continues again the trend of conflicting perspectives, and it also continues the trend of unreliable perspectives. You know, this is a point where you can feel bad for the villains, but you have to remember that these people are off their rocker and not correct. These are unreliable narrators when it comes to how they narrate their feelings. So I got a few points about Twice's monologue. One, it doesn't seem like Twice is a man getting duped. Twice told us he is a man getting duped. So just gonna like fix the semantics here because he's trying to paint a different picture. Two, Hawks doesn't think Twice's life is meaningless because He saw value in that life. He saw meaning in the person that life had shaped when it came to Twice. If anything, Hawks sees more value in Twice than Twice sees in himself. It's Twice who keeps talking himself down. 3. In regards to Twice saying that his friends are better than he could ever be, it's like, Twice, you're the best man among the villains. You are the heart of the villains. And your better friends are people who are willing to let your enemies pick up the slack because they can't exercise control and almost burn you. 4. Twice saying he's happy doesn't get to stop people from pitying him. Happiness doesn't validate bad judgment. And we'll talk about that point a little bit more in a second. Anyway, when I read the monologue, for me, it sounds like this is Twice blaming another person for the way Twice sees himself on one hand, and on the other, it's just a sad situation. Everyone has the right to say that Twice was unlucky, because that's the kinder interpretation. Unlucky makes it seem like Twice had no hand in his misfortune, and that's actually giving Twice a lot of mercy. Because when you think about it, even when you go back and you look at Twice's talks, Twice causes his own problems. Every problem is based on a deficiency from Twice, and yet Hawks still sees value in this guy. Yeah, the unluckiness, saying that is actually a kindness. And this leads me to the overarching point, going back to that whole thing that happiness doesn't validate your bad judgment. It doesn't matter if you're happy in a bad situation. That doesn't somehow justify that it's not a bad situation. Using happiness as a barometer for how valid something is stupid, because it's an easily broken premise. Toga's happiest when she's murdering people. Does that validate Toga? Does that validate the things? Does that make what Toga's doing right? No. Muscular is happy when he's killing people. Does that validate Muscular? No. We can blow this up to maybe more real world scenarios, maybe so it's a little bit easier to understand, and one of them will be kind of brutal. In situations like cults, how likely do you think it is that a cult member is going to say that they're happy? It's actually very likely they're going to say that. What about someone in an abusive situation? Those people might say that they are happy as well. The thing with happiness is that it's all relative, right? You really don't know how happy you can be until you reach your next happiest moment. And then that becomes your new comparison. For Twice, he's at rock bottom. Ascending even 1 foot higher and being happy because you're at that 1 foot higher, it's like, oh great, that's really great for you, buddy. Like, for you personally, it's like, oh my god, this is the happiest I've ever been. But for everyone else who's on top of the cliff looking down at you, it's like, guy, you're still at rock bottom, man. You're only 1 foot off the ground, man. Like, this is a really nasty situation. That's what it ultimately comes back to. When Twice is ultimately saying, being here with them, I was happy, and therefore this was all good for me. This was the greatest thing ever. It's like, no, man, you are speaking from the perspective of a person that doesn't know any better. And that's the reality. Twice ultimately doesn't know any better. You don't want to get your judgment calls from someone who doesn't know any better. So as we go through these chapters, really think about how Twice makes you feel, and then also think about all the places where Twice is wrong. Because this is a really interesting situation where you're rooting, or you're feeling for the bad people. And it is an interesting situation in how the author expresses the story. This has been a very riveting collection of chapters for Twice. And I think there's absolutely something special about being able to talk about how this makes you feel, even though it's objectively maybe not the best thing in the world. For me, every story is an opportunity to expand your horizons, or an opportunity to test how you relate to material in a safe environment. And for these last chapters of Hero Academia, it's been great just seeing, the feelings that are invoked, while also, for me, trying to keep my perspective well, these are still objectively bad people. It's been a really interesting time. And it's interesting because at the end of this chapter, I'm ultimately feeling conflicted. I want Twice to continue living, but at the same time, I know that a lot of the things that he's saying don't really have merit. And in some ways, it's kind of unfortunate to see how self-destructive Twice is. And it's just like, he doesn't know any better. You can't try to convince someone with the promise of paradise or happiness when they don't have any concept of what that paradise could look like, and then to try and compete with the current paradise that they have. It's an unfortunate conflict to have. Anyway, with that out of the way, we can now move into the page-by-page walkthrough that we talked about a lot, but the page-by-page walkthrough won't be too long because we've front-loaded most of the big points here. Page 1, most valuable details. Dobby is talking about screwed up standards, another look, and that's just another look into the mind of the failure that is Dobby, and it sets up the unlucky rhetoric for the rest of the chapter. Another detail, Hawks is propelled by his single burning feather, and this is also another thing that inspired me to do the Hawks Icarus video, so make sure you check it out. Page 2, we have Dobby surrounded by feathers and looking crazy, and making a bad assumption about burning up Hawks' weapons. Here we have something interesting though. Hawks calls out Dobby almost burning twice, and Dobby retorts with he counted on Hawks' nature as a hero, and this leads to a conversation about why the villains as an identity are great characters. This has been a series of chapters where the villains are criticizing the heroes, but look at how Dobby relies on a hero to be a hero. This is hypocrisy at its finest. If we scale this up, if Hawks bent even once and became more like the villains, more like Dobby, more like what Twice is advocating for, in that moment, Twice is dead, because Dobby doesn't have good judgment. The villains are people that criticize behavior, but then rely on that behavior to clean up their own bad choices, and then criticize the behavior some more. And there are totally people like this in the world. Like, so the main story here is that you don't want to be a villain. One instance of bad judgment and you're dead. Quite literally, as Twice has found out multiple times. Page 3, we see Hawks showing judgment, and he acknowledges that he and Dobby are a bad matchup. And before that, we have a strange question from Hawks, specifically the panel where he's talking about Dobby already knowing. Now, it makes sense from Hawks' perspective to ask that, but it is a nonsensical question from a reader's perspective. Because last week, it was implied that Dobby was listening in from page 12. He heard betrayal and lies coming from Hawks' mouth, and he saw Hawks straddling his buddy right about to stab him. Anyone would be angry listening to a guy that's about to off your buddy with a sword. So naturally, the force of the counterattack is going to be wild. The thing is, it would be crazy for anyone to hesitate after listening in on what Dobby listened in on. But that reveals what the author was thinking. I think he wanted to have Dobby have a cool line about how he doesn't trust Hawks, you know, to characterize him and to make him look cool, but really it just makes Dobby's failure look even worse and makes it a lot more hilarious. Because this is a guy that knows that this other guy is going to eventually play him, and then this guy has the audacity to think that he's going to be able to outplay the guy that's going to play him. And then he only still gets outplayed. And it's like, Dobby, it sucks to be you. You suck. Like, man, you should do better, bro. No, but I like making fun of him. But it's like, it's honestly really funny. The author wants to build Dobby up here, but it's like, nah, man. I'm sure the author will give him a saving grace at some point. But it's a really bad performance. Like, you don't wait around to get betrayed. All right. You saying that you never trusted him and then still losing just makes you seem like a fool, right? So, page 4, we had Dobby blowing out Hawks from the building, and page 5, we had a really nice villain moment with Twice and Dobby, and then Twice holding on to Toga's handkerchief. Like, really nice. Page 6, Dobby gets played by Hawks, sheer skill, and the author has an interesting drawn Dobby panel. And I think this just reiterates how shocked Dobby was. He was so shocked that he lost all color in his face. I mean, I think that's what the author is trying to say there. He's just really re-emphasizing the shock. Another thing is that Dobby continues Hawks' too fast rhetoric. Like, again, too fast is going to be something that keeps coming up with Hawks' character. So it was cool to see it still applied there. In page 7, we have Dobby unleashing Hawks' name and burning up Twice's doubles. So let's just all remember Dobby would be a failure of a hero because of all the friendly fire. Now, one last thing I want to say here is that maybe the shock is what let Dobby say Hawks' name out loud. Maybe that was something he wanted to keep secret. Like, that might be a big clue to Dobby's identity, and that shock right before might be the thing that made Dobby slip up. Maybe it's something that he didn't want to give away. That's what I'm thinking right now. Anyway, jumping to page 10 and page 11, I absolutely love the construction of the Twice slaughter. You know, we have Twice sending out a clone that's going to go help Toga. We see something coming in from the corner. Then we switch perspectives. Oh, dear God. Hawks is right there. Oh, man, that's going right for the neck. Hawks had his eyes on the prize. Then we go to the next page, and we can see this body falling from the top with another sound effect at the top. And it's like, nice. Nice, Hawks. Yeah, man, that was totally worthwhile, Hawks. Thank you, Hawks. Thank you, author, man. I love the construction. The construction, amazing. Amazing stuff. Moving to page 12 and 13, we have some interesting stuff. Compressed acknowledges that Toga's evasive skills aren't doing much against this hero. Interesting observation. I don't think we needed it, but maybe that's building something up for later. Then the hero gives us some interesting dialogue. He gives us a point about society. Important because at this point, this is the author himself giving the readers another perspective that he wants us to consider. Because there's no real need for the hero to go out of his way to bring this point up. He acknowledges that the villains have their reasons, but this isn't the way to go about things, which reinforces what we talked about in the last video. The heroes are there to give society the opportunity to have the time to improve. The hero acknowledging that they have reasons is important because it acknowledges that there are problems that need to be fixed in society, which is important because it adds merit or adds weight to some part of the villain's plight. If you understand that there are reasons why people do something, you can eventually work towards a better situation. Moving on to page 14 and 15, Twice destroys that poor hero's head multiple times. At least looking at that panel, it's like, goddamn, man. I feel bad for you. Like, Twice really seemed to hit. From the sound effects, it looks like he hit 3 times. I kind of like that hero, so I really hope he comes back. Also, these pages is where Twice confirms that he had a big fall and fell on the concrete. Finally, the last page I want to talk about, page 18 and 19, Toga thanks Twice, showing that Toga can still be kind to him. And this answers a thought that Twice had back in chapter 265. So, right now, it looks like we're done with the Twice portion of these chapters. The heart of the villains destroyed. Will Toga be able to revive Twice and let this wonderful light of just comedic value return to the pages of Hero Academia? I really hope so, man. Look, right now, Toga has enough reason to act out here. So I do hope that she has a vial of Twice blood. Just make one Twice double and then have that double make a lot more doubles. That would be fine. Then keep that double forever. Probably put him in a bubble so he never dies. That'll be funny. Or, you know, just revive Twice. I wouldn't mind. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, man. The video did not go as long as I thought it could, so this is a good thing. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for watching. This was my very quick video. Let me know what you thought down below. And everyone, till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.